again, I appreciate you coming aboard and just joining me and talking a little bit about yourself and the reason that I asked you on the show is really just because I saw the communication going out through social from Lafayette Jeff to the students, to the athletes, and how you guys have been engaging with each other, and really just wanted to, pick your brain on your thoughts behind that. But we'll get there eventually if you're all
Yeah,
right with
sounds
that.
good. Yeah.
Kind of wanted to get into your story a little bit. So Rensselaer high school football, the Northwest Indiana. Give me an idea, kind of what life was like and what high school football was like up there.
Yeah. So Rensselaer is a small town. It's a tight knit community. My parents both grew up there, both raised there, and our high school football coach was Chris Meeks. Our entire staff was comprised of Rensselaer people, and many of the guys that coached me at Rensselaer are still guys that are there and involved with the program and on staff today. But Chris Meeks, he just had an unbelievable gift and still has an unbelievable gift of getting you to play hard for each other and for your community. And that's something that really helped me develop my passion for the game and just the sport of football. And he had a really big impact on me personally. I was a bit of a knucklehead, just immature and growing up and just did stupid stuff. Still do, but I wanted to play, and Coach Meeks pretty much sat me down, had a conversation for me as a sophomore, and said, "Look, man, if you want to have any possibility of contributing to this team and helping us win games, then you gotta act right,
Right.
So learned pretty quickly that he was in control of something I wanted, and that was playing time. But he did it in a way that was powerful and motivating. And he's just, in my eyes, he's the best high school football coach in the state of Indiana.
That's awesome.
My number one mentor. We don't talk all the time, but when we do talk often, it's still Coach Meeks, and just the amount of respect I have for him and what he's done for me in my life and for that community in general is just, what inspires me to do my job as good as I can each and every day.
Right. Absolutely. I had a similar experience with my high school coach, and it's kind of, a kind of a latent function, I guess, of the coaching world. It's the influence that you put on these kids. And we were lucky enough, like you said, just to have that figure in our lives, that male figure in our life, just to kind of guide you. I mean, same scenario. I think I was so I had an older brother in high school. He was the starting quarterback. He was a junior when I became a freshman. And it was all this talk like, hey, Timmy's got a younger brother that's supposed to be good. And my head was like this walking into high school. And it was cut down pretty quickly by my coach, Coach Langella. And, just to have that figure in there to guide you through there, I mean, it sticks with you for life for sure. So I'm sure, and from your perspective, like you said, inspiration to continue or to get into coaching. But what would you say, I guess, just in serving as a role model or that figure in others' lives and how important that is to you?
I mean, that's everything. That's why we do what we do. I think I speak on behalf of our entire coaching staff here at Lafayette Jeff. I mean, we're in this business because we want to help kids and we want to help them reach their dreams and reach their potential. So, it's important that we win, especially at a school like Lafayette Jeff. Winning is important, but I think the things that we value the most at Lafayette Jeff is just being there for our kids and helping them in any capacity that we can. So we're going to push them. We're going to challenge them, even despite tough circumstances right now. We're still pushing them and challenging them. But the number one most important thing in our conversations with them, not just through this quarantine, but through everything, is just, how are you doing?
Right.
How's your well-being? How can we help you? And, it's a profession. It's a business that's of service. And that's something that I know my coaches growing up, they took seriously. And it's something that the guys on our staff here at Lafayette Jeff take very seriously as well.
That's great. So back to high school. So, and I just researched from some articles that I could find out there for you. But so linebacker, running back, like offense, defense, both ways.
Yeah, old school football, special teams too. So each year it seemed like Coach Meeks asked me to do something a little bit different. I was just an average high school football player, quite honestly. Just tried to work hard as best I could for Coach Meeks and just really enjoyed playing high school football with my buddies.
Sure.
My best friends on the football team are still some of my best friends today. So, that's really what it was about. We had some success. We won a couple conference championships, but the year after I graduated, was actually a volunteer on staff while I was a student at Purdue.
Okay.
And, seeing the Coach Meeks knock that door down and win that first sectional championship for our community, it was really, really special. So
That's great.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a special experience. It's kind of fun talking about it. It brings back
Absolutely.
great memories.
That's great. So started as an assistant on the staff right away after high school. And I guess how long were you there for before making kind of a first move?
I just did 1 year with Coach Meeks, and then from there I tried to kind of experience the college thing. Still coached some summer baseball. In fact, I wanted to be a baseball coach. I was going to coach baseball and football, but
Nice.
When I got my first coaching job, I went to Mount Vernon down in Indianapolis. Just life took me to Indianapolis, and coached under Doug Peacock for 3 years, and it was a part of a really good staff. There's a lot of guys. Tim Miller's the head coach at LaPel. Ben Weiss is the offensive line coach at Fishers. Eric Nielsen was a head baseball coach for some number of different places. He had a lot of success. And Scott McMurray's a defense coordinator at with Kyle Ralph in New Pal.
Okay.
And Bobby Ryan's the head coach at Frankton. It was a really, really good staff, and we struggled there, actually, believe it or not. But
Sure.
a lot of us young guys that came in under Coach Peacock, we all got ripped at the same time as in the kind of the late 2000s when the market took a crash. And fortunately, my first interview after getting ripped from there was at Ben Davis, and they offered me a job on the spot. So I canceled my other interviews and said,
Wow.
this is the place for me. This is a place where football is really important, and I can go in and learn under some great coaches and a great program and see the process that it takes to win at a very high level. So
Sure.
that's the process that took me to Ben Davis.
Right. And as you talked about, all coaches and mentors and staffs you've been a part of, I'm sure there's just tons of learning going on. But I'm just kind of curious, you get to a Ben Davis at, the top class in the state and obviously a powerhouse. What's different about it, or what shined bright to you when you show up to a program like that?
Well, it's a 7-day-a-week job in season. I learned that. My first coaches meeting, sat in on an offensive meeting. Justin Ferris, our offense coordinator, but we were prepping for Indianapolis Cathedral in the Lucas Oil game, and Dick Dolahan, Coach Dolahan, comes in and he gave a clinic essentially on QB wedge and QB sneak and how we were going to triple team the nose. And holy cow, man, this is awesome. This is different. But it's just kind of it's hard to not be a fan at that time and to soak it up. But Kevin Vanderbush was our strength coach, and working under a guy whose sole job was being a strength coach and just trying to get in there and learn and grind. I worked I was a head JV coach and a running back coach at Mount Vernon, and I went to Ben Davis, and their varsity staff was full. So I went down for 2 years and spent time as an offense coordinator there, and was around some really good kids and just tried to show up to everything varsity wise. I went to every Sunday meeting. Really, not that I wasn't invited, but it wasn't required for me to go. So
right.
Each off season there was an opening, and each off season Coach Kirshner, he hired Brian Ferris after my first year there as a defensive position. And then my second year there, Luther Stroder went to work. I think he took another job that didn't require him to coach, and I got to coach running backs. Got to coach Chris Evans, which was a lot of fun. But
it's funny. I've been working with him a bunch and some other things going on, and I just ran your name past, and I had no idea the connection. He was like, "Oh, Coach Shanley, like, it was my running back coach." So that's cool that connection was there. So, how important? Because you mentioned this, like you weren't. It's not that you weren't invited, but you weren't required to be somewhere. So as a young coach, how important is it to take advantage of some of those unspoken or not required things and be in attendance and just be around, I guess?
That's a great question. I think when you're young, you try to go in and impress everybody and let them know how much you know. But I learned pretty quick working under Justin Ferris to just grind and be an asset in any capacity that I could. No job is too big or too small, and I just tried to add value to that room as best I could, and the best way to do that was by showing up and just asking what I could do. And that was involved. If Coach Stroder couldn't be there to help the running backs at a Tuesday night or a Thursday night in November, December, or January, February, I'd step up and help again, just being present and just trying to let, kind of, quite honestly, the work ethic that Chris Meeks demanded of us as football players at Rensselaer, in opportunities like that, it kind of shined through. Just trying to, I think my message to answer your question to young coaches that are trying to move up the ranks is just be present where you are. Don't go looking for that next job all the time. You add value, number one, to the lives of the kids that you're coaching each and every day, and do whatever it takes to help those kids succeed. And then to your coaching staff, ask questions, soak up knowledge, learn as much as you can, but just being present and grinding and not, being what you ask your kids to do. Don't make excuses. Right. Show up no matter the circumstances and just be present. So
that's great. That's great advice.
Served me well. And, I think it more importantly served our kids at that time very well.
That's great. All right. So you gained experience there. Was it the coordinator spot that opened up for you at Jeff, or how did you enter that staff? I guess, how'd that come about?
Yeah. So that's another crazy story, how things are cyclical and come back around. Justin Myers at the time, when it was 2015, when Brian Moore got hired, I had no connection to Brian Moore whatsoever, but Justin Moore was a holdover from the previous staff and was going to work under Brian Moore. Justin Myers was, and he was an ETE major at Purdue with me. Both guys that were just education majors that wanted to get in and coach. And he said, "Hey, we're looking for coaches. You want to move closer to home? We've got a technology opening." Just kind of, my wife at the time, we were living in Zionsville. She's a Purdue graduate as well. We had really no interest in going back to Lafayette, but we came up there and watched Coach Moore put him through a workout in February before I made a decision. And we were really, really bad, We
right.
And we were in the auxiliary gym and couldn't complete a pass. And I vividly remember Coach Moore. We walked out of there, and I'm just kind of like, holy cow, just even considering going from Ben Davis to this.
Right. Wow.
Coach Moore looked at me and said, "Look, man, we can build this here together. If we win 3 games next year, these guys are going to think we're a lot smarter than we are."
Right.
And we were fortunate enough to get some really good players out. Brett Sheldon was our wide receiver coach at the time, and worked really hard to get some basketball kids out that hadn't played previously, and we worked together to chuck the ball up a little bit and win. Kind of screwed around and won 8 games.
Sure.
It was a lot of fun, man. That was that year of learning under Brian Moore. That guy is as meticulous as you can possibly get, and no detail is too small, no stone unturned. And
sure,
I probably, not that I didn't learn football under other guys, but being in that position, him granting me the opportunity to be an offensive coordinator, and then him forcing me to answer the why we're doing everything really forced me to grow and learn, and it was just a great experience for me.
That's great. So is this your first time calling plays on the varsity side?
Yeah, in 2015. Okay. That was my first time. I was the JV offense coordinator for 2 years at Ben Davis before moving on to that.
Give me a little, I guess, science of football, X's and O's, scheme. I mean, what type of, philosophy behind the offense? How'd you come about building what you put in, there?
Yeah, so we truly, honestly do a lot of what Rochester, Illinois does out of Derek Leonard. He is a football genius. So Coach Moore ran that for 1 year at Fountain Central before taking the Jeff job, and Brett Sheldon came over and brought it with him. And we tried to combine a little bit of what we did at Ben Davis, but it really truly became a lot of what Rochester's doing, what Coach Moore did, and he really made me a believer in GT counter and just how we call plays, how we go up tempo, no huddle, how we're all verbal with it. Multiple formations, multiple personnel groupings, and just it's a fun offense to coach in. And sure. I just think too, just as offensive linemen, man, we're not in there just blocking inside zone and road graders. We're getting them out and getting moving, getting the ball out of our quarterback's hands, getting into our athletes in space as much as we can. So it's kind of the origins of the offense.
Right.
Each year we tweak it a little bit as we continue to study, what the college offenses are doing. And obviously we want to curtail our offense and get it to fit our kids each and every year. So
GT.
I don't know if that answered your question or not.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think so. Whenever I hear that, I think more like a personality to that offense, that power and physicality to it. And I think what you alluded to, more or less, it starts there, right? And the auxiliary stuff comes and builds off of that. Would you kind of say that, like you mentioned, I mean, not everything is inside zone. So I guess
No. In fact, we don't. In fact, we don't run any inside zone, man. We're 100% gap scheme. We dabbled. My first year as head coach in 2016, we started dabbling with a little bit of inside zone, but we were averaging about 2.1 per play on that. So when we looked at the data after the season, we kind of scrapped that and outside zone and just got really, really good at running GT counter as many different possible ways as we could. So we want to get good at something and try to do our best to master something. And a little bit of a shout out to our offensive line coach Shane Turnseed. He came on in 2017, and since then, our run game and just our ability to block people has improved tremendously. But I think it's a combination of Coach Turnseed coming on and just us simplifying our run game a little bit.
That's awesome. Awesome. I guess as far as, so it's a better time at Lafayette Jeff right now. So that turnaround you talked about, I mean, you were obviously a huge part of that. Give me an idea, walking into a program like that, what it took or what was paramount for the coaching staff to communicate to those players to get them to believe and change a culture there.
Yeah, so that first year, Brian, he really established a strong culture and discipline and everything that it takes to win, And, we had to kind of ride that wave a little bit, but, we tweaked some things culture-wise. The earn the stripe thing is something that we added.
Right.
My second year, and that's had a really positive impact in terms of helping motivate kids and providing an incentive for them to just eliminate the excuses and put the work in. But
so give us a little bit about that. I wanted to talk about that, but if you could explain what that kind of system is.
So I think we got the idea. I think North Vermilion has different color face masks for guys that reach a certain standard during the off season and what's being asked of them. So that kind of popped into my brain like, hey, let's try to earn a stripe. So for guys to earn a stripe on their helmet, they've got to be at 90% of the off-season workouts. Things happen, things come up. So we kind of have a little bit of that 10% leniency that where life happens, if somebody's got to go to the dentist or, there's a death in the family, regardless of what the circumstances are, which sounds kind of cold-hearted, but, they don't earn their stripe, their check mark essentially for that day. So, if we have 100 off-season workouts, they need to be at 90 of them for them to have that stripe on their helmet. And each year, that number, it's really kind of neat. It's grown. Last year we had 90% of our football team that had earned their stripe on their helmet. So, and then it's kind of neat because, you don't want to be one of those guys that don't have that stripe on their helmet because everybody in the stadium knows, and can see it. And that's not to embarrass kids or anything, but it's number one that this is for you to have that thing. You've got to work. You sacrificed, a little bit of social time. You sacrificed, maybe if you were feeling a little bit under the weather. I know that's a sensitive thing to talk about right now, but
right.
Just putting into work, man. And that's I think together it's not if the kids said, you know what, screw this, we're not. It's just a stripe. It's silly. If they treated it that way, it wouldn't have been a success. But our seniors at that time, that first year we launched it, really made it important. And each year our seniors have helped raise that bar a little bit. Like, hey, let's beat the previous class. Let's have higher attendance in the last group that came through here. And they understand it's important. So it's been neat to kind of see the growth of that and see the kids take it serious.
That's great. And the word that screams out to me is accountability, like something I didn't understand until I got into real life, So even in college, and you have coaches screaming at you when you're almost dying, it's like, you be accountable. But that to me is a tool to help enforce, or, hey, you got to show up, not only for yourself, but others and that team to grow as a whole. And I didn't understand that concept basically until, family comes about and I'm accountable for other people and all of that. So I think that's an awesome kind of system and tool you have going. And what you mentioned as far as the culture and the seniors and the players actually taking it over. I mean, to me, that is the ultimate transition. You know, you could scream it till you're blue in the face as the coach, but somebody has to adopt it and take it over. And it sounds like your guys did.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So right now, I mean, you mentioned it, and with everything going on, it's a extremely tough time. Even in the coaches' world, you know, had a tragedy at North Central with Coach Logan down there. You know, it's really unprecedented, and I just wanted to express, you know, my thoughts and prayers to that family and program as well. But with that being said, you're accountable, the word accountable, to, I mean, how many guys are on the team, and even your students in class? I mean, what would you say as far as a number that you're looking over right now?
So we're anywhere between 82 to 85 guys on our roster, 10 through 12. And
Right.
then in terms of students that we've got every day, and we're doing the e-learning with them, and we're checking on about 100 kids
Wow.
in the classroom. So, yeah, we're at home, but the work's not stopping
Right.
for us as teachers, and what we're really pushing and stressing to our kids, the work can't stop for you either. So,
Right.
Our accountability and us earning our stripes and our culture, it can't change. So, you know, we're trying to get creative and still create that team aspect. We're still trying to build a team right now. So we've kind of moved away from kids sending us individual workouts and, you know, not trying to give away any secrets. I'm sure there's other schools that are doing it too, but we've gone to a 10 a.m. Zoom workout as their way of earning their stripes. So Monday through Friday, Coach Greg Dunkel, our strength coach, is doing a tremendous job. He's staying a day ahead, and he's a state police officer, so he's on the clock, working a 9 to 5, and he's coming home and putting together and programming a workout that's different than anything he's ever done, you know, with these circumstances. So, you know, without him, we wouldn't be able to execute this at a level that we need to. But nonetheless, getting back to that, I wanted to hold kids accountable. You know, instead of 20 kids just sending us little snips of workouts, let's see them actually doing it. So we put in, you know, I guess we did this Zoom thing where we're using Huddle. Our workouts are in Huddle, and we're sending them a message for the link to accept the invitation, just like you did for an email. They click on that link, and here we go. We've got 65 kids.
Wow.
That number needs to grow, but we've got 65 kids, you know, working out together as a team, forcing them to get their butts out of bed. Not that 10 a.m.'s early, but you know,
I hear you.
Probably earlier for most of them than
right.
what they get up. So, yeah, man, it's been good. We just finished up day 2 of that today, and you know, we've got to improve our numbers, and we've got to get certain guys on board with it, quite honestly. But you know, it's been a good start, and it's great. More than anything, it's just great to see the guys again, and I think they're excited to see each other.
I bet, absolutely. How did I guess day one, or when you realized as a staff and this was going to happen, I'm just curious on how it came together, you know, the discussions and as a staff, and how you kind of implemented that and put that in place. Because really the tough thing in any organization, I mean, I'm out of coaching, but still, I mean, I'm in human resources, and it's like, regardless of what you're doing, it's the communication and how it's getting out and how you're engaging in whatever your audience is. So I'm just kind of curious on how that came about.
Yeah, so the first week that we were in this situation, we took our roster and we divided everybody up into subgroups. So we're fortunate that we have 16 coaches on our staff.
Wow.
So each coach is responsible for about 6 to 8 kids and communicating with those 6 to 8 kids, checking on, number one, their well-being. Number 2, how's your e-learning going? And then number 3, are you completing the workouts? So we've been, you know, we're now going into week 5 of this situation. But for 5 weeks, you know, our assistant coach has been doing a tremendous job just communicating with kids and checking on them. But you know, that, I don't know if that answers your question or not, but you know, that first week, man, I don't know if anybody really knew what we were in store for.
Right.
You know, we kind of thought, you know, we'd be a 2 or 3 week extended spring break, and we'd be back to work in April. And unfortunately, you know, fortunately and unfortunately, this is a situation that we're in. So we've got to make the most of it. And you know, again, we can't change our standard. We can't let our culture I guess, we can't change our culture. We can't let it get bad, I guess. Poor choice of words there, but you know what I'm saying. And we're just trying to keep pushing them and keep challenging them and keep communicating with them.
That's great. Great, Coach. All gas, no brakes. I wanted to ask about that. Is that something that existed when you showed up, or is that something you kind of put in as that mantra there? What stands behind it? What's it about?
Yeah, I think it was just kind of, we're going to go fast. 2015 was really, how we were playing in terms of the style of our offense. And then 2016, when I took over, I wanted to make it something bigger. It's not just how we're playing football. This whole thing that we do here is way more than football. We tell our kids that all the time. So how we attack our workouts, how we attack the classroom, how we attack necessarily, our relationships with everybody. We want to give everything we have to it.
Right.
So that's really kind of what it dwarfed into. And each year we kind of add to it. Each word kind of means something. When we talk to our kids, grit's one of them, so we talk to them. And John Mundell is an assistant coach on our staff. He leads our leadership program for all of our kids. Right. And so he does a great job just kind of trying to add to and keep giving our kids little nuggets that they can grab onto that kind of help them throughout the course of each and every day and throughout their life.
I guess with just a couple minutes left, I'm just curious, I'm obviously into the recruiting aspect of things and not necessarily the accolades and stars and all that stuff, but the recruiting process for me as a high school kid was stressful, anxious. I couldn't stand it. I didn't understand it. My parents didn't. I mean, I was the first one to kind of go through it. So I'm curious, as far as your experience, being the head coach and what you see as an overall barometer for the kids. I mean, think about your class of 2021 kids, how you serve as a resource for them and kind of what you try and do to help with that process.
So Shane Turnipseed, he every offseason, he puts together a full-page document that has our kids, all their contact information, all their weight room numbers, all their testing numbers, their email address, their stats, and he'll actually send that out to every college within Indiana and every surrounding state. So he'll look up all of that. So we send that out to them, and that does include test scores and GPA.
Sure.
And then on top of that, 2 years ago, we actually started the Lafayette Area College Day. And we did it. The first year we did it on our own. The second year, Harrison, McCutcheon, and West Lafayette all jumped in on it. Unfortunately, we don't get to do that this year.
Right.
But that thing that we did last year, DeMarco Cross got an offer from Coach Speck off of that. And then Bishop Johnson, our wide receiver, Army, was there watching him in action. He came away with an offer from that as well. So we're going to continue to do that. We're going to constantly promote our kids on social media and do anything we can. We're going to reach out to college coaches in any way that we can to help promote our kids as well. So, we're constantly learning and trying to ask questions on how we can better promote our kids because, again, it's about serving them. Sure. But at the end of the day, I'm proud of the work that our coaching staff's put in to promote our kids, to give them opportunities and help them kind of chase their dreams.
That's great. I love that's one of the more recent, I think, innovations or developments is that community-based or multiple schools working out or being there at the same time. And I'm just thinking as an area coach for a college, just to get the chance to see everybody or most of those kids in my area. I mean, how great of a tool and resource that is. That's huge.
Yeah, and we stole it from Indianapolis. Indianapolis has been doing it for a long time.
Yeah.
But it does take some communication with your spring sport coaches, and then amongst us as football coaches and staggering our times. That way, the Division I schools can be there. If we're all working out together, I think the NCAA rules would prohibit them from being there to watch that in action. So,
right.
They're going to start out going to West Lafayette, then they're going to come here, then they're going to go to Harrison, and then they're going to finish on McCutcheon. But it does make their job as evaluators much easier for, some of our kids here at Lafayette Jeff, they don't have a means to get on college campuses,
right?
Quite honestly. So from a financial standpoint, it makes it much, much better for them as well.
That's huge. Well, shoot, Coach, listen, I really appreciate the time. I just, like I said, wanted to reach out. I mean, only interactions was through social media, but I definitely respect everything that you guys are doing. And just as a distant fan, just wish you the best and wish your team the best, especially through this crazy time. And looking forward and keeping those fingers crossed for the fall and seeing you guys out there.
I appreciate it. I've always been a fan of yours as a Purdue graduate, and it's neat to see what you're doing for Indiana high school football to promote kids and help grow this game. So we really appreciate it. We'll continue to follow you. You got a bunch of fans up here in Lafayette.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Coach. Best of luck. We'll talk to you soon.